Welcome to Sports Skope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Skope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 8th day of January. Those of you out of Nashville, Tennessee area, which I'm at now currently. 25 years ago today, folks. 25 years ago to this day, the Tennessee Titans pulled off one of the biggest miracles in NFL playoff history in the Music City Miracle return on special teams to end the game against the Buffalo Bills. Very controversial play. Going to play a little bit of a going to talk about that. Maybe have a clip. I'll tease that. Also, Bill Belichick. Maybe the narrative is wrong about him. Bill Belichick, 4 teams were interested in Bill Belichick. Now, apparently he's wanting to still stay. He's wanting to stay at North Carolina. Going to talk about that. Rumblings there. Other rumblings, Cliff Kingsbury being mentioned as well. So stand by, plus 30 minutes past the hour, folks. What I've teased and I've put on before, talked about a couple weeks ago. I met this lady in an Uber ride, the Yankee Princess, Jeannie Paul, author of the Yankee Princess. Now, this book has been out for a while. I think it was published in 2011. She wrote it a while back. But I met Jeannie Paul. She's the daughter of legendary general manager of the Yankees 77, part owner also of the 77 World Series champion New York Yankees. Jeannie Paul's also got a background in sports talk radio, reporter, motivational speaker. So she will be on. Listen, look how awesome this. It's got the pinstripe book. Just got it in over the weekend. I didn't get a chance to really read much of it Sunday, but because I've got so much work to do, I got 3 jobs and it ain't easy. But she will be on 30 minutes past the hour. Got some really interesting stuff here I want to ask her about her dad. Plus, I want to ask Jenny about how she's been doing and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. But first, let's take our first and only break in, and I'll be back here momentarily, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Skope. Hello, Sports Skope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Skope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, Skope, Skope, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Skope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Skope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National.
All righty then. I don't want to waste too much time on those commercials and whatnot. Got to get to some substance here before my guest comes on the program. As I said yesterday, I'm always just a step ahead of the rest of it. I'm like Nostradamus, not the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Two different people, not that guy. I was watching the whole Sopranos where the Bobby Bacala got the two mixed up with Tony. It's a good little back and forth. I've been listening to the podcast. It's really funny. And going back and watching old episodes since I got HBO for a little while. I still love Sopranos. But anyways, I said yesterday that I thought that a report I read about 6 weeks ago that Tom Brady was going to push for the Raiders to inquire Bill Belichick about taking over. He's a part owner. Speaking of part owners, he's a part owner of the Raiders now, even though they had Antonio Pierce was technically the coach at that time. I said that still may come to some type of fruition. Now today, less than 24 hours later this morning, Tom Pelestrio of NFL Network says multiple NFL teams have inquired about legendary coach Bill Belichick would reconsider his move to college football, including the Raiders minority Tom Brady. So, boom, there you go, right? And it also notes Belichick's contract includes a $10 million buyout if he leaves, and that's peanuts of these billionaire owners, if he leaves prior to June 1st. Now, obviously, if you're a team, you really want to get him in there. You want to discuss free agency with him. You want to discuss the draft, and now he shouldn't be drafting anybody. That's the reason why he's unemployed right now, okay? But, and Pelestrio mentions the fact that the Jets, the Saints, the Bears, the Patriots, the Jags, and the Raiders are available, okay? But after June 1st, the buyout's nothing, Nice little tidbit there. And of course, it goes back to what I said. It goes back to what I said back at the very beginning. Once I read the little tidbits, the reports that Belichick wanted a clause for his son to take over after he leaves Carolina. Well, then you write the contract where the buyout's practically nothing after June 1st. Okay, so now his son, I think his name is Steven, his son's coming over from Washington defense coordinator. He's now, air quote, officially working with Bill Belichick now at the University of North Carolina. So my guess was, my prediction is he's going to do one season there, and then he's going to come out next year and take a job in the NFL and try to get Don Shula's record. That's what he's going to do. And, I'm going to ask Jeannie when she comes on, Jeannie Paul, and I think Jeannie's been remarried. Jenny Gardner is her name in her email, but I'll ask her about that. About nepotism, and it was interesting about her dad's take, the Gay Paul, well-known Yankee general manager and general manager for the Indians and Major League Baseball icon, essentially. But interesting take on nepotism there. That's what I think Bill's going to do. I think he's going to do that. Plus, another little wrench in the narratives, the sports talk world said, well, Bill's done. He's too rigid. He's picking the play. And by the way, like I said, I don't want him picking the players. I don't want Bill Belichick picking the players. When he started doing that, where's N'Keal Harry at? You got guys like A.J. Brown drafted after him. You've got guys like Deebo Samuel drafted after him. He was a guy that Belichick knew through Herm Edwards, and this receiver, God knows where he's at now. That's an example of Belichick taking over the draft. So you don't want that. But I think the narrative was he just wanted to pick the players with Atlanta. He just wants to pick the players with future organizations. He's claiming that's not the case. I've read it. He said that's not the case now. He learned his lesson, yada, yada, yada. And he's too old and rigid. But that's not the case. I mean, there are several teams, is what Press Reel said, are interested in Bill Belichick. I know the Raiders would do it. I mean, Mark Davis loves these splashy hires. He went after Josh McDaniels. Remember, McDaniels was pretty highly sought after at one time. Then you figure out now he don't quite have the managerial skills to be a head coach. A lot of coaches are not head coaching material. You guys know how I think about that. But plus Pete Carroll, they're the same age. So this ageism stuff, he'll be 73 in April, Bill Belichick. People thought, well, maybe because he's dating a 24-year-old, he may be going through some kind of mid to late life crisis in his case. Midlife, hey, 40 is a new thing. Maybe 40, a friend of mine told me, he says when he picked up this young woman who was in her 20s, he was doing over too, good friend of mine. She was dating a guy like 47. She's like 47. That's a new 24, 27. So, and I thought that was pretty cool. So now we're going 10 years back farther. Well, with modern technology and diet, maybe so. But my point is, Belichick is being sought after, I think, and Pete Carroll with the Bears interview, he's being sought after. Okay. And they're both, like I said, I think we'll say they're the same age, 73 in April. Pete Carroll still chewing that chewing gum, 90 miles an hour. He's also in his 70s. He's getting interviews. We thought it was over for him. I think what we're seeing, guys like Cliff Kingsbury fall off. You saw Brandon Staley, young guy, fall off there. The young, what we're starting to see, it was right on the line for McDaniel there. The coach down there, young coach down in Miami, thought he might get fired, but he hasn't. These guys, when things get tough, they're come off a little passive here, not quite develop that skill set. And listen, Brian Callahan here in Nashville, he's 40. That's still pretty young for a coach there. Listen, if he don't get it together, I've had Rich Ferris on last night. Great guest, by the way. I've been meaning to cut that, but I got so busy in my day job this week, and get some clips out from that. But go back and listen to that. He's saying that he is going to make some changes on his staff. He needs to make changes on that staff. Almost every coach does when they come to a new team, get a new organization, you get a group of guys together, you see the special teams fall off, you see the secondary. Dan Campbell fired his secondary coach year and a half ago. I thought maybe Aaron Glenn. Now Aaron Glenn looks like he's on a roll a little bit. So Cincinnati, although I didn't agree with it, they fired Lou Amorano, who you all know and watch me. I really like what he's been doing. I like what he did the year they went to the Super Bowl, and the year after that when they went to the AFC Championship game. Now they had an injury at quarterback last year, and they didn't make it. And this year they didn't re-sign DJ Ritter at defensive tackle. They had too many secondary guys to reshuffle there. That's a personnel issue. We know Amorano can coach. He won't be out of the league long as well, But Brian Callahan, he's got to make some changes on that staff. If he don't, he's not confrontational. He's going to be considered a guy, more of a scheme guy rather than a guy that's confrontational and want to get guys out. Now, Colin Cowherd said that Pete Carroll's the problem with him, and he's an older coach, but you really see it with the younger guys per se. Not with Cal Shanahan. I think they fired somebody else on their team. So he'll move off a guy in a minute. He understands what it takes. I think Callahan's going to do the right thing, make some changes here. I understand these guys got families. It's hard to do. It's winter time, but that's the business that you choose. You know, that's I think that's out of The Godfather, but it's the truth. I mean, Jim Caldwell said one time, former coach Jim Caldwell, he says, we're used to getting jobs every single year. So the wives know that. That's the life that you choose when you go into coaching. That is not a stable job. It's not a 9-to-5 regular job. It's just not. It don't pay regular money. It pays good money. Position coaches making several $100,000 a year. So it is what it is, folks. Okay. Before I run out of time, I wanted to talk about this Music City Miracle. I'm out of Nashville. Some of you older fans might not know what I'm talking about. Tennessee Titans came to Nashville, became the Titans. I want to say they came here like 97. They were working out the Tennessee Oilers thing and the move from Houston to Nashville and all that. But I don't count all them years. They played in Memphis one year, then they played in, I want to say they played in like Vanderbilt Stadium. It was pretty embarrassing the first couple of years until the stadium got built. Now, when the stadium got built, it used to be called Adelphia Coliseum. The stadium they're in now, they got the new name. The Tennessee Titans got the new jersey, got the new everything, got the new attitude, right? They got the new attitude. And the team just, the town was on fire and whatnot. And, you know, everything started changing. This was basically an 8-8 team just about every year. Right around that, Steve McNair was drafted in 95. Eddie George, running back, drafted in 96. That year, they got Javon Curse in the first round. All these guys became big hits here in Nashville. And I say all that because Tennessee, they have they're picking 32nd, you know, or they're picking first. They were the 32nd worst team this year. This 25th anniversary for them, this team being in the Super Bowl. You look at a team like Detroit. I've played Dan Campbell. Seems like every other week I've played Dan Campbell clips and whatnot. And you look back just a few years, and I was looking back at my notes last year when they won the playoff game last year, 1 year ago, January, when they beat the Rams. One guy said, I asked one guy was about crying. I think it was Jeremy Ballrick. He says, I actually cried. I said, people crying. I think I had Jeremy, or it may have been Scott Morganroth. And, but that's the first time they won a game in the playoffs since 1992. I mean, you think about a drought like that. People that screwed up during that time, a person that is, say, 30 years old, 35 years, they don't know nothing but losing years. They don't know nothing but the draft for the Lions. You know, they get excited when you get a guy like a Matt Stafford. You get excited when you get a guy like a Calvin Johnson and whatnot. But look at the state they're in now. They're on the verge of potentially getting to the Super Bowl. There is hope in this league, is my whole point. There is hope in this league. So let's go back and to memory lane, and let's take a look at this play back in switching back over to the Titans. January 8th. It was a Saturday. Okay. It was a Saturday, January 8th, here in Nashville. It's about 40 degrees, a cool 40 though. Had a long Titan shirt on. Had my brother-in-law Mike. I tagged you with it. The play on Facebook there. Great atmosphere. A lot of good music. Played out in the parking lot. Getting those tickets. You say, how'd you get those tickets? Well, I got 45-yard line upper level seats to this game, and I waited a couple weeks before, about a week or so before. It was right around New Year's. And I waited in front of that cold stadium. It was 20-something, about cold as it is today, 26, for 6 hours talking to people online. Back then, you didn't have cell phones, internet. You had the internet, but it was still the old school way, wait in line at the stadium to get the tickets. for the non-season ticket. They still had quite a few tickets. And I was probably about 50th in line. There were people there before me that had waited and waited and waited. And I really wasn't that bored. Time went by kind of quickly. Radio stations were showing up. The TV stations were showing up. People would come out and holler, and you would have people that work for the organizations, not the players, anything, kind of keep everybody on the up and up, playing music in the background. It turned into an event. It was kind of like Groundhog Day, you know, up in Pennsylvania. There was an atmosphere like that. And, you know, a guy, they were $45 a piece, and the guy offered me $100 a piece for them. And I started to sell them. I thought, no, this is a one-time thing. It's a new town, new team. The team did not lose any home games that year. They were 13-3. They were a wild card team, but somehow they got to host a playoff game. Somehow they got to host a playoff game. I don't know how that worked out that year. It was the AFC Central. It wasn't the AFC North or South. And because Jacksonville wasn't in a same division. That's what it was. But Jacksonville had a better record than Tennessee. They were 14-2, and only 2 losses were to Tennessee. But listen to this play. Buffalo comes in town. Wade Phillips is coaching Buffalo. They had a guy named Rob Johnson. It wasn't we thought Doug Flutie was going to play, but Rob Johnson was in up playing. And Tennessee, great start, pretty low scoring game, you know, and they end up getting a field goal at the end and taking the lead. And Tennessee's down by 2. They're down by 2 points, and I'm thinking, this can't end like this, man. This is a great season. They beat a red-hot Rams team down here in Nashville. And it just feels like it just can't end this way. But I thought so. I was telling my brother-in-law, I said, you know, they've got 3 timeouts, maybe a couple of big throws by McNair, who's no longer with us now. Frank Wycheck's in this thing. He's no longer with us now. And I think we can get the field goal. But this is what happens. Let's watch it here. I got this off of TikTok.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them?
And no, this is Mike Keith. This is the radio guy showing it on screen. This is the radio guy making the call.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them in what has been a magical season to this point? If they do, they need it now. Christie kicks it high and short. Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25.
Yeah,
pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's got
40,
something.
50.
He's got it.
40,
He's got it.
20, 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled them.
I was watching that. This afternoon I was working there. I was on my way. I had my phone in my little cup holder thing. And, man, I tell you, I teared up watching that. And this, the emotion after that play, it was reviewed. And we were really, really holding our breath there. And then the guy calls it, said it's good. The ref calls it. And just hugging people in the stands. 2 good-looking women in front of us. Michael, I know he's my ex-brother-in-law now. They were drinking hard liquor in their drinks and hugging them and high-fiving the strangers. And then as we're, of course, Buffalo tried to kick it back off and do something, and it fell through. And, for years and years, Buffalo, even Marcellus Wiley, I love Marcellus, played for that Bills team. He's a former Fox Sports personality. And he said that was a forward pass. It was illegal. And I said, listen, man, this is computers. They've done this on computers. They've done lines. You've done all kinds of studies on that. It was a lateral pass. It was just perfectly executed as a play that Fisher and that team worked on every Friday. Before the end of practice, let's run it one more time. Let's run that play one more time. But since that play there, they went on to the Super Bowl, had a chance to tie the game with the extra point at the end. And, of course, the Rams ultimately won and broke our hearts there in Tennessee. But, we know about the tragedy with Steve McNair, with the girlfriend and stuff back in 2009. And then, of course, something happened, an accident there where he fell or whatever. We don't really know the whole story behind. Frank Wojcik is no longer with us. And, Wojcik's been on local radio here for years after that game. And just recently retired a few years before he died. He's only in his 50s. So time goes by fast. 25 years ago today. I say that because that team is picking number one pick in the draft. Just one good pick, one good general manager, one good coach, and you get that right quarterback coach combination like the Lions got. And I think the Lions are going to get to the Super Bowl. I said that in the preseason. Now, I also said Cincinnati would, but I didn't think their defense would be this bad. But I still stand by that. It looks like Detroit's getting better. And they got a good head of steam on them. But there is hope. There is hope there, folks, for the Titans, and there's hope for other teams around the league that are not doing really well. That there's hope for the Browns or hope for the Raiders. Who would have ever thought there wasn't hope for Detroit? The Detroit found their way. So just wanted to say that. Let me take one more quick break here and turn this air down just a little bit. Even though it's about 25 outside, it's still a little hot in this kitchen. I'm thinking I'm going to turn my air on just for a second, folks. I'll be right back here shortly. Hello, Sports Skope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Skope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports. Here we go. All right, I'm back now. Whew. Like I said, it's about 25 here in Nashville, 25, 26 degrees. And, I turned the air on 70 here, but I normally keep it on 68, but it still gets hot in here with this suit. And of course, with the lighting around me, even though it's, I'm on the second floor and warm air still rises. But, a little flashback there to the Music City Miracle. Also, I did screenshot this, mentioned that yesterday. This is about the quarterbacks yesterday. This is from NFL Rookie Watch. J.J. McCarthy, that's with Minnesota. That's been the talk of the last few weeks with the emergence of Sam Darnold and whatnot. J.J. McCarthy will reportedly rank as the number one. I mentioned this yesterday, but this is an actual report here. The number one quarterback in this draft over Schroeder, Sanders, and Cam Ward, according to several NFL stouts. McCarthy is a reported potential trade target this offseason, pending on the Vikings' playoff performance, which teams such as the Browns, Giants, Raiders have significant interest in. McCarthy become available. He's getting over a meniscus tear. He's supposed to fully recover. Second-year player. That's the player out of Michigan. I wasn't that high on, but he did have a really good camp there. No mention of the Titans here, but the Raiders, Browns, and the Giants are having significant interest in McCarthy. Trading McCarthy would require a top 10, if not top 5 pick. I couldn't see giving the number one pick from Tennessee for a guy like McCarthy here. But according to this, he's liked more than these guys. I would disagree with the scouts here. I mentioned the high completion percentage of a Schroeder Sanders. I don't know what the deal on that is. I would roll the dice with him or Cam Ward over J.J. McCarthy personally. I just don't. I don't get that. May be wrong. I said the Titans would win 8 or 9 games last year, and they end up winning just they end up winning 3? All right. So Jenny did get my email, and I think she's going to be here any minute now. But I wanted to make sure and get my questions out for Jenny Paul and make sure that she hasn't had any problems here. Well, she just said look forward to it. I'm pretty sure she knows how to use this, but if she doesn't pop up here, we'll see what the deal is, because she hasn't come up here backstage yet. Also, by the way, Josina Anderson says that 4 teams are interested in Cliff Kingsbury, which is, I don't know, but we'll get to that another time, because I just now saw my guest here pop up on the screen. So, folks, this is Jeannie Paul. She's the author of this book I have in my hand right here. Yes, Jenny, you see me backstage. I did order your book. Now, I just got it in because I ordered over the holidays. It took a while. I got it from Amazon. This is called The Yankee Princess, why Dad and I were in a league of our own. And like I said before to you all, that's Gabe Paul, famous general manager, owner in the Major League Baseball here. So, former, of course. Let's bring up Jenny and have a round of applause. Hey, Jenny, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight, my friend.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good. It seems like you've got everything down. You was right on the dot. I can tell you've worked in radio. I said 7:30, 8:30 Eastern, and I was thinking, okay, it's 7:29. And I looked at 7:30 and looked up, you're on the screen. So appreciate you.
Well, if I knew I was going to be on TV, I thought it was just an audio, I would have put a lot more makeup on. But
oh, no,
okay.
You look great.
Natural.
You look great here. Well, TV, internet, I guess you could say it's on TV. It's on YouTube. Live stream show here. I want to tell the crowd, I picked up Jenny. Was that your daughter with you?
That was my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. My son's getting married in Finland in February, and
congratulations.
Thank you. One trip to Nashville to see a concert, and we had a really great weekend.
Oh, so you were doing mother-in-law, daughter-in-law bonding.
Right, that's right. Yes, it was. And it's a funny story, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, it seems like you're getting off to a good start. Sound like you really like each other.
Well, I do. I actually really like my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. That's a plus, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Now I saw now. Are you remarried also?
No, no, I'm not remarried.
I saw Jenny Gardner on my email, and then Jenny.
Well,
Paul.
that's my married name that I kept because my children have Gardner, but I go by Paul because that's my name I write under.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of things that I write.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to get to my questions here. So on reading through your book and listening to an interview, Gabe Paul, your dad, was he and now you've got a background, you were telling me in the car the other day, you've got a background in sports talk career. You've been to sports talk radio. I've also looked up, you're a motivational speaker. You're really into sports. Was that, now your dad's famous former general manager of the New York Yankees, also owner, was that because of his influence? What comes your love for sports to want to have a career in it?
Well, I mean, you can go into the psychological reasons of why people do what they do. It's sort of natural. I mean, if you went into a study of why people do what they do, how many people end up doing what their parents do? But in my case, I had 4 brothers.
Okay.
And
yeah, Dad, you're the only daughter.
I'm the only girl. And
yeah.
Dad always said to the boys, don't ever go into baseball. Well, my oldest brother, Gabe Jr., was with the Milwaukee Brewers for 30 years as vice president of stadium operations. I
Yeah.
have a baby brother who started the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then in between, all the boys dabbled in sports. So I guess it was natural for me
Yeah.
to go into broadcasting and become a sportscaster at the age of 19. And my first job was at the Washington Post under the supervision of Shirley Povich, who is Maury Povich's dad, or was Maury Povich's dad. Maury Povich, the television.
Yeah. Maury Povich. Yeah.
Maury Povich. What happened to Maury Povich? But
Yeah.
anyway, he was a sportscaster, an extraordinary sportscaster until he got into the kooky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Shirley Povich brought me on to the Washington Post as a copy girl, and that was my first introduction to writing and the sports world. And from there,
Yeah.
I moved along, and I ended up in television in New York when Dad was owner of the New York Yankees. And that's where the book came from, because it was a book
Yeah.
about a father-daughter relationship and a big conflict of interest.
Yes.
Because
Yes. Yeah. Let me ask you about this. Now, I found some interview. I think I want to say this interview was on your website. This is probably when this first came out. Now, you wrote this when it was published in 2011, right?
Right.
But you wrote this, what, 2010, 2009?
It took me 12 years to write.
Wow. Okay. Hey, listen, better late than never, but anyways, I want to ask you this question, because I was just talking about Bill Belichick. I really don't like what I'm hearing and reading, that he is going to take he's going to take this job with the Carolina Tar Heels. And its reports are when he leaves, part of his deal is his son's going to take over, and little nepotism. And you said your dad was totally against that and wouldn't even give you an interview. Can you explain that?
Well, yes, I can
Love
explain
that, if
it.
that's
And
the
I
truth.
get this question all the time
Yeah.
about nepotism, because the Steinbrenners are totally different.
Yes.
There was okay. So Dad said that if we were going to make our way in the world, that he is not going to give us a job in the same place that he works. And he was part owner of 4 Major League Baseball teams.
Yeah.
So we had to make our own way. And the question I get is, didn't that make me mad? And as a 20-year-old, maybe it did a little bit, but on the other hand, in this stage of my life, it was the biggest blessing around, because honestly, if you don't make your own way in life, you don't appreciate the things that you have.
Yes.
And
amen.
Right, isn't that true?
Yes.
Right. So basically, I worked hard working my way up from a copy girl all the way up to a network reporter.
Right.
And it was not easy in the 70s. Believe me, it was not easy. I was the first woman at the Washington Post. I was the first woman on NBC Sports. I was the first woman everywhere. I was kicked out of high school press boxes. I paid my dues. I wrote bowling. I wrote high school sports. I paid my dues.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paid a lot of money, and I never had a lot of money. And Dad never really had a lot of money either, because he was a bat boy at the age of 10 years old. He worked his way up from traveling secretary to general manager to president. And people don't understand that not everybody owned pizza parlors, and not everybody owned something else. And baseball was his only career, and he didn't have a lot of money to back up, what he was doing. And he also had 5 kids. And if that will not drain you, I don't know what will.
Now, you said that he would not, if I understand it right from this other interview you did years ago, like I said, it was probably 2010, I think.
Right.
Radio interview, that he wouldn't grant you an interview with him or Catfish Hunter.
No, what happened was, it was when Catfish Hunter was signed.
Okay.
And I was working for CBS, and they wanted me to go down to Texas Cotton Bowl or something like that, and take him with me and do the interview of how he signed Catfish Hunter, and he would not go with me. And at that point, I was a producer, and that was going to be my big break to go on network television.
Yeah.
And during, I think it was the Cotton Bowl or something like that, but it was a big show.
Okay.
And Dad said, no, they're just using you, and I'm not
Wow.
going to do it. And that I was upset about, because I said, okay, so they're using me. Let's do it anyway. And let's tell the story and let me do the interview and, push me up the ladder a little bit. And he said no.
That's awesome. That's what I was. LeBron, his son is now Bronny's with the Lakers, and you can hear the criticisms. And that's what I said. Just let him learn on his own.
That's what he did not want me. That's exactly what he said. I don't want people to criticize you for being my daughter because you got there because of me. You get where you're going because of you. And the Steinbrenners all got jobs in the Yankee organization. By the way, Dad put George Steinbrenner in that organization. It was not the other way around, and he almost did not. But he did not want anybody in our family being criticized because of something he did, or putting us in a position of failure. We were just going to earn our own way on our own merits. And if we got fired on our own merits.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I read now that Steinbrenner, your dad, Steinbrenner's wanting to buy the Indians, and your dad was an executive at the Indians, and he's the one that made the deal happen. That the Indians thing fell through for the Yankees with this company. What did your dad see in Steinbrenner to even want to deal with him at that time?
Well, you have to understand that he was friends with George in Cleveland.
Okay.
And they were just friends. Now, what happened with the Indians was Vernon Stouffer had ownership in the Indians at that time.
Okay.
And George and Vernon Stouffer's son went to Williams College together.
Okay.
And they owned the Cleveland Pipers, I think it was at that time. And George went into Stouffer's son's checkbook and forged a check.
Wow.
With his son, and forged a check in his son's checkbook to pay something with the Pipers, payroll or something. Mm-hmm. And Vernon found out about it. I believe that's what it was. And so therefore he would never sell him an interest in the Cleveland Indians. And so he never told George that, but George was never going to be allowed to buy an interest in the Cleveland Indians because of that. And
because of a bad check or attempted.
Because of a check that he stole from his son's checkbook.
Wow. Now, was it really trying to do a crime, or was he just using his son's checkbook? They had shared accounts or something?
No, they did not have shared accounts.
Oh, okay.
No.
I didn't know. I mean, you never know. Okay.
No, they did not have shared accounts. And so that was always something that was held against him. And then I think he wanted to go to Detroit and buy the Tigers.
Okay.
But Major League Baseball vets you. They have a vetting system, and all the owners have to agree to let you into Major League Baseball.
Okay.
And he had no history in Major League Baseball. And there were reports that I saw.
Okay.
And he was the weak link in the Yankees. And they almost did not let him in.
Yeah, so your dad hooked him up with this company. How long had they been friends? Did they meet in college or something? Your dad?
No. My dad only went through the 8th grade.
Okay.
They
baseball circles or what?
They met in Cleveland.
This somewhere in Cleveland, a bar or something, or what happened?
No. No. It was probably at an Indians game or something. Dad was in Cleveland for quite a while, and they met there somewhere.
Okay, that is an interesting story. Now, you're saying that your dad made it happen for the Yankees. So we're talking January 73. They should make a movie about this. People my age, we
Well-
just know the Yankees from the 90s, you know?
Well, that's why I wrote the book. I actually
Yeah.
wrote the book to be a movie, and there are parts in there that would have been.
It should be, even though it's got some years on it. It should be. This is great. Look, the Yankees
Well,
are still coming.
it should be a movie because it's also a father-daughter love story
Yeah.
surrounded by the New York Yankees. And it's a universal story about fathers and daughters. And not very many people talk about the residual effects of a workaholic dad.
Okay. That's what
And
it
the-
sounds like with him. Yeah. I really
And-
admire your dad. I don't even know him.
Well, he was a great guy, but
Yeah.
we butted heads. Can you imagine? We butted heads. I'm in New
Sounds
York
like you're just
City.
alike, huh?
Yes. And he has a daughter in the industry covering the New York Yankees when he's part owner. And if that isn't a conflict of interest, I don't know what is.
Yes. So, so we get to that part. How did he come up with the money to buy the Yankees? I mean, that's how much did the Yankees did he actually own? That's an interesting.
Oh
aspect
gosh,
of the story.
I think he owned. Well, let's see. I'd have to go back and look at all my notes and everything like that.
Like 5% or something.
Like 5% or something like
Okay.
that. And he had a very good friend who probably lent him the money.
Okay.
And that good friend was also from Cleveland. And he made a deal with that friend that after so many years, he would go back to Cleveland, which he did, and try to build a winner for the Indians. So he stayed 5 years and went back to Cleveland. And that's where he retired in 1984. But unfortunately, there just wasn't enough money in the Cleveland organization to build a winner, because by that time free agency had come in and you really needed a lot of money to buy players. And Cleveland was an interesting situation. They just didn't have the money to buy the players and trade. And Dad was a master at trading, but unless you had that money behind you, it couldn't be done.
Okay. So they win the World Series in '77. Did Steinbrenner try to keep your dad there and talk him out of this?
Yes.
Okay.
He tried to do all sorts of stuff to keep him there. And when Dad said no, he couldn't be bought,
Yeah.
Steinbrenner said that his name was never to be mentioned again in Yankee Stadium.
Wow. That's typical Steinbrenner. I
Yeah.
thought that he had left because, by the way, for the audience there, 160. Okay, so he bought, going back to this purchase here, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Looking at today's numbers, you're talking billions and billions and billions of dollars for organizations, $4 billion, $5 billion. He bought the Yankees in '73 for $10 billion and $167,000 out of his own pocket. That sounds so crazy. It's the deal of a lifetime, considering the fact that CBS bought it for $12 million in 64 or $11.2 million in '64. That's crazy. It's one of the greatest deals of all time.
$10 million, and I think it was 253,000 or something. But here's an interesting fact, that George had a clause in the contract, and I don't know how this got through Dad's lawyers, that he could buy back stock at the original price that the original owners had, borrowing from Yankee money when they sold. So the way that George became the majority owner was to make everybody angry, so that they would sell. Then he could buy back their stock at the original price that they paid for it.
Okay.
Borrowing from Yankee money.
Wow. How do you pull that off? You can't probably do that now all of a
I
sudden.
have no idea how that got through. I have no idea. And to this day, I have no idea how that got through Dad's
So that's how your
lawyers.
dad he just gave your dad that money back and said, you take it at this price.
Dad, when he sold his stock, did
Yeah.
not make a penny on it.
Dang.
Not a penny, and neither did anybody else. And for an example, he had a very good friend
Mm-hmm.
who was the ambassador to Switzerland,
Okay.
Marvin Warner.
Okay.
And Marvin Warner was in New York, and George said, "Hey, come and visit me at Le Club," or whatever this club was. Le Club,
Yeah.
I think it was called. And he
Okay.
walks in, and the maitre d's name was Michael. Michael had a big fat Yankee ring on his finger.
Mm-hmm.
And George was sitting over there at a table with a bunch of people, and he goes, "I'm here to see George." And he sees George, and he waves to George, and Michael says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't go over there." And he goes, "Well, wait a minute." He goes, "I'm a guest of George Steinbrenner," and he goes, "Well, I'm sorry, you can't go over there." That's the type of thing. That's the type of thing that went on.
Mm-hmm.
So Marvin went home and sold his stock.
Wow.
He was so angry. He went home and sold. Now, they're all dead. All these people are dead.
Yeah.
And so he goes home and he sells the stock for the original price that
Yeah.
he sold. He did not make any money on it. And
Wow.
George kept acquiring more and more stock, borrowing from Yankee money,
Uh-huh.
buying it back at the original amount because that was in the deal. And that's how he became majority owner.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So you see what I'm saying
uh-huh.
is that because he only put originally $200,000 into the team.
Yeah. See, I've got this from Google, which also it does list MLB.com. It says 160, but still that's not a, even if it's 200. You're saying this says 168 of his own money. 100,000. That's crazy. Little bit of cash. I'm surprised Major League Baseball even done the deal or let the deal happen with CBS.
Well, CBS was had to sell.
Well, they in dire straits.
They had to sell, right?
Yeah.
And it's not called the Bronx Zoo for nothing. It was a zoo. It was a total zoo. And I was young, I was in my 20s.
In 73 when this happened?
Yeah, I was in my 20s.
We're right at the anniversary, Jenny.
What's that?
Today's January 8th.
Oh, geez. Oh,
That's what it
gosh.
says here, January 3rd, 1973.
Right.
January 8th, 2025,
Yeah.
52 years ago.
I was in Middleburg, Virginia.
Okay.
Driving around, looking at horses because I love the countryside. I was in college, and Mom and Dad called me and said, "Your father's going to the Yankees." I almost flipped out, and I was like, "What?" Because I never expected that, and but it was kind of interesting because Cleveland was in dire straits, and Dad had a very difficult time in Cleveland. And the Cleveland fans are very fickle. They'll go to a game if they're winning, and if they're losing, it seems like they don't show up. And that's still true to this day in a way. And I know it's kind of weird.
First, I'm glad the Cavs are doing well. They won with LeBron.
and then the Browns move away, and oh my gosh, it's an interesting city. But so I was like, and then I told you, and I say in the book, my life was never the same. But your life is never the same, from year to year anyway. But my life was really never the same when we went to New York. But it was a very interesting time, and I'm so happy to have had that in my past.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to have every year in my past in my life because every year was different. The best time was last year. When Dad got inducted into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. That was spectacular.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I want to say that, wasn't Pete Rose there? I think I seen something on Pete Rose, and I think I heard him mention Gabe Paul. There was a documentary on Pete Rose that came out just before he died. Did you see that?
No, but Dad signed Pete Rose many years ago. I grew up knowing Pete. And last year we sat together at the inauguration, and it was great. It was just great, and all the the people in the Hall of Fame. You know, Dad signed 69% of the Big Red Machine, and he had been gone from Cincinnati 8 years before the Big Red Machine really took off.
Yeah.
But you know, and I say the Gabe Paul in Cincinnati was no different than the Gabe Paul in New York. He believed in a strong farm system, and he
Yeah.
made over 500 trades in his lifetime, and he was a master trader. And you know, he had an 8th grade education. He was a 10-year-old boy. He used to sneak in the ballpark. There were 12 kids in his family. His parents were from the Ukraine,
Yeah.
and he was Jewish. And
Jewish guy.
my mother was Episcopal, but he was Jewish, and he did not want to call attention to that. He could have been commissioner, but because he was Jewish, he sort of turned it down. And he was an amazing guy. And
Yeah.
he was an amazing, amazing man, and I gave him fits. I know, I ran him in circles.
Now, I've read this now. I wouldn't bring this up if it wasn't air quote in the book.
What?
I read this the other day through here. I was reading it in the Ford. I'm about 20 pages in this thing. And this is what it says in the book. You had a secret affair, direct quote, with Billy Martin. How did that come about? I mean,
well, listen.
Yeah.
I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
And what 20-year-old would not hang out with Billy Martin and Mickey Mantle?
Yeah.
And we go out, and you know, it was such a fun time.
How old was Billy Martin at the time? We're talking about
much older than I was. Much older than I was.
Okay.
Much older.
You're saying like 40 something, maybe 43, 44?
Well, I'd have to think about it, but he was much older than I was.
Yeah.
But
well,
I mean,
I'll say that.
we're going out. We're going out. We're sitting at PJ Clark's, which was a sports bar in New York.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a reporter, and you know, we were at the same events all the time, spring training, and you know, so there we go. I mean, you know,
when did you come to the point where oh my God, it's Billy Martin. Let me interview Billy Martin, to the fact that, you know, I'd kind of like to go out with Billy Martin. When did they cross over from that?
It never crossed over like that. Billy Martin was a woman.
How did that
Billy
cross
Martin
over? People love this stuff, Jenny.
Listen, I know, but Billy Martin was a womanizer, okay?
Okay.
I was just one of his on his list.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So you're saying it never crossed over like that? You didn't try to come at him professionally and interview him?
Oh, I interviewed him. I interviewed him a lot, but
okay.
But as far as going out with Billy, you know, I'm saying that Billy would probably go out with a lot of people, and I would have never married him.
So you're not going to say, do you actually remember the time when you thought, man, I kind of like to, or you can't really put all that together? Was it kind of a blur to you? Everything was happening fast, or what?
There was a lot of drinking, and it's not a blur, and I know exactly what happened. And I was very fond of Billy, and Billy was very smart, but he was an alcoholic.
Yeah. Well, grew up around both of them. I understand. Older men, younger women. That's pretty common now. You know, Bill Belichick was just talking. He's the man on the cover, right? He's dating a 24-year-old. He's in his 70s now. I know that's a bigger difference there. But you've got guys like Al Pacino with young kids, and he's in his 80s.
Well, let's put it this way: if there's a movie made, I'll say a little bit more.
Yeah, that would be really cool there. Yeah,
because people love the dirt. You know, you know, Dad never wrote a book because he said you have to put so much dirt in there. He had plenty of it, but he wasn't going to write it.
Was he married at the time, or is he not married?
Not married. Billy? Not married. No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I've known about him getting fired 4 times. And I knew everybody knew about the alcohol issues, but he's a good manager.
5 times. 5 times.
He got fired 5 times?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder why George kept bringing him back.
Well, George should have been fired 5 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you talk to the to the Steinbrenners? Did you forgive them, or how'd that go about later on?
Well, first of all, the Steinbrenners were lovely people.
Okay.
Jenny and Jesse and Hal and Hank all were lovely, lovely people. And George's wife was lovely. It was George that was the problem.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that they came to my wedding. George didn't because he wasn't there, but they were
Oh,
all very,
wow.
very,
Okay.
they were very,
Nice.
very lovely, lovely, lovely people. And it was George.
Yeah. Reading about your dad and George, it reminds me of Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, because they didn't win in the 80s. It took him a while to recover from your dad leaving. Remember, they didn't do anything in the 80s. Don't you see that's kind of a
After
similarity?
Dad left, it was 15 years
Yeah.
after Dad left before they won again. And it kind of I mean, you don't wish ill on anybody,
Right.
but it
Right.
was 15 years.
Yeah.
And if they had had Dad there, maybe they would have won. But that's hindsight. And hindsight, what do they say? Is
Hindsight's 20/20.
20. And
Yeah.
they may have won. But Dad couldn't take it anymore. He did make a deal to go back to Cleveland. But it
Okay.
was so nasty at the end with
Right.
saying, well, like I said, his name wasn't to be mentioned. He made George Steinbrenner who he was. George Steinbrenner, you could say George made himself, but that's not true. Dad did the trades. Dad was the baseball man, and Dad taught George everything he knew in baseball.
Yeah.
And
kind of like Ray Kroc and the McDonald brothers, Or he kind of just took the McDonald thing and just kind of ran with it and did something else with it. But really, the McDonald brothers kind of put together McDonald's, the story of McDonald's.
Right.
Very similar story there. So what are you doing now? Are you still in the sports talk industry? Are you still motivational speaker? What are you doing nowadays?
I do a little bit of everything. I mean, sometimes I'll go on with Fred Wallen on Sports Overnight America.
Okay.
And I'm writing another book, and hopefully the Yankee Princess will become a movie. I'd love for someone.
That?
What's that?
You still pushing that to get it to be?
Yes. I mean, because it's a great father-daughter universal story. And actually the Bronx Zoo, what did they do? What was that series? The Bronx is Burning. That only touched on a little bit of the story, and it had high ratings, and it was a great series and everything like that. But this is a totally different universal father-daughter story, and there are no father-daughter stories like this in baseball.
Yeah. And parenting has been, I think it was Tony Dungy said something about that. It's been like an all-time low. We need to honor more two-parent homes and daughter-father relationships and father-son relationships, and emphasize on staying married to one lady, because the statistics with the crime with the sons, if they don't have dad around, and dad's that's a big deal.
A father and a daughter. I mean, your father is the first man you see. You emulate him. I married a very controlling man. I was
like
married
your dad?
twice. Yes, my dad was very controlling, and I write about that. But he was a wonderful man.
Yeah.
But he just wanted the best for me. And the other thing is, in that generation, it was like, oh, get married and have kids and you'll be fine. Well, that's not really the situation, because you're really not fine.
Right.
And so they're antagonists, they're protagonists. There's, it would be a great TV series. It'd be a great TV movie, but Hollywood is kind of corrupt, and so I don't know how to get.
Hollywood's they're out of ideas. They're doing remakes constantly, Jenny, and a book about this would be also, or a story about this, or even just your story in general would be good.
The home box office liked it, but they were busy at the time. And I did talk to
And I love HBO. I was just talking about
I did
Sopranos
talk
before you
to
got on.
Len Amato, and he did Blood Diamond, and he liked it, and
Yeah.
but he was really busy at the time, and so I never really pushed it with home box office. But any one of the Prime or Netflix or anything, it'd be a great series.
Yeah. Well, I read all the time about, well, I wrote this book back in so and so, and it took 12 years to get it off the ground. Or
Oh,
I
right.
think Rudy took 10 years to get after he started that. 10 years to get that. And you know how hard it was for Rudy. So, like you said, I'm glad that you just got it published, that you're still playing the long game. And I was telling a friend of mine after I talked to you, I said, Corey, I was really hesitant to tell this woman that I've been doing this for 7 years, because I thought she may think, well, this guy's not successful. He's out here driving Uber and stuff. But, I mentioned to you long game, and it's like you respected that. Like I stayed with it, for 7 years. And it was a totally opposite reaction that I thought you would have for me. So I really appreciate that. But now after looking at this and talking to you, reading about, I can understand that the nepotism stuff. You understand process, long game, developing, starting from the ground up.
That's right. And I do understand everything, and it took me a long time to understand what Dad's values and ethics and morals.
Yeah.
And and I hope I brought up my two children the same way. Where they work hard and they don't accept freebies, and
Right.
they earn what they get, and I'm a big believer in that. So it did have a big effect on me, and it took me a long time to learn, but I learned it.
Yeah. Well, like mine's here, and I've got your book and where to get it at the bottom of the screen, theyankeeprincess.com, Amazon. Now, I ordered mine from Amazon. It took a few weeks, so I ordered it during the holidays. Remember, I picked you up on a couple days before Christmas.
Right.
So, anything else do you need to plug, Jeannie?
No, thank you so much. And I envy you living in Nashville, because that's my favorite city.
Well, we're supposed to get a lot of snow here lately. Are you still in Fort Lauderdale? Or are you down?
No, I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
You're in Richmond. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Richmond. I have a daughter here, and then have a son in Annapolis, Maryland.
Okay.
And that's the one who's getting married in Finland in February.
Oh,
I know. We're all going
Finland?
over there.
Is she from Finland?
No, she's not. But they wanted to get married under the Northern Lights.
Oh.
So we're all going to freeze our butts off under the
Wow.
Northern Lights, but maybe the pictures will be good.
If it makes her happy, I guess happy wife, happy life, right?
Well, you met her. She's lovely. She's just a lovely person.
She seems really humble. Yeah.
She's lovely.
She don't seem demanding at all.
No, she's very sweet, and they really are a great match.
That's the best news I've heard all day. All right. Hey, Jen, you know what? I may ask you to come back on. We're way over the time. I normally just keep this within an hour. But when I get done reading this, would you like to come back on sometime?
Absolutely. And just let me know. It'd be a pleasure.
Yeah. And, a friend of mine, Keith Engel, he's a big baseball guy. And I was going to get into some baseball questions, but we got distracted with other stuff. He said he would like to interview you. He's got me set up with learning how to use a green screen. He's very professional. Could I recommend him to you?
Did you? I don't know.
No, could I? I'm just saying.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure thing.
He'd order your book and stuff. Keith's a great guy. He does a show like mine, live stream, and older guy. He's huge in the base. I just got back into baseball. I thought it was a little slow for a while. I like this. I like the pitch clock. I don't know how you feel about that, but
we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, I'm just saying we love that. Us younger folks that are caffeinated and stuff, 2 hours and 29 minutes. Wow. We're all into that.
Listen, I've been to plenty of double headers, and I've been to more baseball games than anybody probably, besides my dad.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, you're okay with staying 8 hours to a baseball game?
Oh, well, not really, but then again, we'll talk about that another day.
You got it. Okay. Jenny Paul, everybody. Hold on, let me give you a good sound off here from the crowd. Thank you. Have a good night. Hey, I'll send you a copy of our interview too.
Okay, thank you so much, and enjoy the snow in Nashville.
Oh, that's what we're expecting, and I'm dreading it, my friend.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Now, I'll be back here probably Friday. I'm probably going to have to work extra longer tomorrow and drive Uber and all that stuff because I'm going to have to miss the day job Friday. I'm not driving in this stuff from the day job Friday. So, Thursday, excuse me. Friday, I'll be back here in the studio, which is where I live, with the Mad New Yorker live. But we'll do a replay and whatnot. So, man, I'm way over. I'm going to get myself in trouble here. I'll see you all live Friday, but stay tuned tomorrow. I'll find a good replay to put in. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Real Sports Skope.